Welcome to Step into the Forge. My name is Daniel Müller. I'm here to help men on their path to true success. Today is number 4. We're just getting started, and my job today is to help you understand your inner critic and how to overcome these limiting patterns and beliefs that are holding you back from really stepping into your power as a man. When we talk about power, a lot of people are scared of power. They think you shouldn't have power or whatever is going on there. Ultimately, power is your ability to lead your own life and lead the lives of other people around you to their highest potential. So this is not about domination. This is about mastery, it's about being a master, not a monster. One of my teachers, Idarisi Visasanata, always says that. So be the master, not a monster. And the key sequence that I see a lot of great men today stumble upon is that they don't believe in themselves enough. They go into the world with a side of themselves that says, I am not worthy. And it is an inner voice that keeps them from doing the things that they really want to do. And trying to do new things, we need to really trust that what we're aiming for right now is possible. This means you need to change your behavior. Ultimately, you can try to heal your trauma and go into your current life traumas and then into your past life and then the collective traumas of humanity. And then you're going to just be spending the next millions of years trying to heal your trauma. And there's going to come new ones. Or you just go to the piece that is actually necessary, which is change your behavior. Sometimes changing your behavior, it can help to understand where it comes from. But the best we have is just a wild guess. So we feel something and then we try to back it with logic. That's usually a process that we as men need to understand, that this is how we actually function. Meaning that we're going to feel something and then we're going to be like, oh yeah, that's why I behave this way. My father did this. My mother did this. My caretakers did this. My brothers and sisters did this. This happened to me back then. And then everything that you put behind that sentence is going to define who you are and how you behave. And so if you know that that's the case, you can just go immediately to seeing, okay, is this behavior useful or not useful? So remove the pattern of thinking in right and wrong. Right and wrong is a very difficult topic to have a discussion based on reality, because everyone thinks that they know what is right and wrong. And you're going to try to defend your belief systems, which ultimately is just thoughts that became opinions that then became your beliefs. I'll repeat that one again. All beliefs are just thoughts or ideas that then became opinions. You said, this one I like better than others. And then you reinforce them so many times until they become a belief inside of you. And so these beliefs are driving all of our behaviors ultimately. If I believe that if I do something in this way, then I'm going to get that result, that's what I'm going to be doing over and over. If I believe I won't get the result, then I'm not even going to try. And so not trying is a big problem. And that usually stems from not believing in yourself. Oh, I can't do that. The risk is too high. The risk of staying where you're at is way bigger than the risk of actually failing and moving forward and actually executing and making it to the next level. This is very, very important. It's crucial for every man to understand that you're going to have to take risks to take good, to be able to gain great wins over time. And I'm not talking about be stupid and take unnecessary risks. Being able to take well-calculated risks is that you understand the price you're going to have to pay in case of failure. And long-term, failure is just a short process until there is success. So you cannot have success without a form of failure and learning. So either you're learning or you're winning, and both are always beneficial. So you can always move forward with that mindset. But let's get back to the beliefs, the thoughts, the patterns, and what is holding us back. And usually it's an inner critic established by one of our caretakers when we were young. And they often didn't know what they're doing. So they're just transmitting what their parents transmitted, and one of you is going to be the curse breaker and is going to say, I'm not going to treat my son this way. Yeah, I'm going to treat him better. I'm going to whisper into his ear who he is and how great that he is. Like not saying, "Oh, you're so beautiful, you're so smart." That is usually not so good. It's actually, I love how much effort you put into these things. If you stay on the ball, you have such a great heart, you're going to reach anything you like. Those are things that are usually very beneficial. So rather rewarding effort than rewarding through characteristics that we say, because they're not earned. And everything that we earn, we understand if we earn things, and that's the price for life. We all need to pay the ignorance tax down. We all need to be able to understand that we don't know how to do certain things. And until we know how to do them, we're going to be paying the ignorance tax. As an example that I love hearing, or that I loved hearing, was that if you knew how to make $1 billion, think about how much you make this year. And now take how much you make this year, 1 billion minus what you make this year. And that's how much it costs you for not knowing how to make $1 billion per year. Because if you knew how to make it, you would have that. So skills and paying down our ignorance tax as a man is just essential, because we're here to bring value. We are inherently valuable just as we are. And this is really where I want to lead all of this here. We need to understand that in society's eyes, we are worthless unless we bring value. In comparison to women, and this is where it always comes down to, women always have the ability to bring babies, and their bodies themselves are valuable to society because men love that. It's what they give a lot for. Men, if they don't have that value, they don't bring value, they are the cannon fodder of humanity. Yeah, meaning they're being burnt out in wars, or they're being burnt out in mines, or they're being used as various forms of slaves in different categories. So I know this sounds harsh, just there's a piece of reality that we just need to face as humans and men per se, which is understanding how there's different ways of perceiving worth and value. And so if we don't bring value as men into this world, we're being seen as worthless. And that's because on a physical plane, think about it, in a tribe where we come from, a community, if someone is not doing or contributing to society, they're a weight, they're heavy, they're a burden. And in the past, there would be an initiation called a rite of passage. And this rite of passage would actually go sure that the bloated ego of a young man, the head of that ego gets chopped off. Because very often we don't know how good we have it until we don't have it anymore. And these rites of passages were very often very difficult, very hard, usually connected to a lot of pain or the possibility of facing death. And there would be death. In our society, obviously, we think that all of this is not right anymore, and with good reasoning behind it. There's also just the point of how we perceive death and how we see beyond the veil of just physicality. So I want to bring that one in, because if you measure yourself, for example, in like X amount of money, then I'm worthy. X amount of muscles and strength, then I'm worthy. X amount of women gotten, then I'm worthy. X amount of kids, X amount of anything external. You're literally putting the most powerful thing that you have into an equation that goes up and down, that changes constantly, because resources come and go. People may become millionaires and then they lose everything overnight. It's a lot of things that can happen. And if your self-worth and your identity is tied to things outside of yourself, then you're always a slave to those things. My recommendation for the inner critic who says to you, to me in my head, I used to have a really big critic. So I started first off, for every inner critic, I would have 10 cheerleaders going wild. I already brought that in one of my earlier podcast episodes. But beyond that, where do you anchor your self-worth? Where do you derive your meaning of sense and self? I really like this meditation. It's called a Connect to Self. And then beyond that, the connect to self leads you through the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual planes step by step. So you really recognize your total being. And we go all the way into a transpersonal stage, something we call the soul or spirit or nothingness and everythingness. So we perceive ourselves as a droplet. It's the I, right? It's my body, it's my experience, it's my things, and other people and other things around me are having experience of their own as well. And then if I dissolve into the ocean, who am I and what do I become? And so this is very often, it seems conceptual, but it's actually an experience that you can have internally inside of yourself. And that is when you follow the senses. So your senses are always feeding you with data, if you are aware of it or not. If you, for example, you're not thinking about your right foot, but if you put all your attention on your right foot, after a while, it will start literally lighting up from your neurons, from the neurological aspect, because you're putting attention there. Wherever you put attention, your energy will go, your energy will flow. So if you put it on your body and you follow the senses, and then you follow the experience of emotions, and you follow the thoughts, they all go to the observer, to the I. So the big I, there's the small I, which is you're identifying with one of the experiences in your body, but they're always changing. They're always fluctuating. This too shall pass. But if you then focus on where does it go to the observer, you will notice that you can observe the observer. And the moment you start observing the observer, it's like the eye of the storm is watching the swirling of the storm, which is the ever-changing landscape of our physicality, emotionality, and the mental landscape, and literally our experience is constantly shifting and changing. But at the center, the eye of the storm is then observing the eye of the storm. So you can find peace and tranquility, and you can notice that our true and the deepest experience that we can, through observation, not through belief, not through thinking, not through guessing, not through anything else, but the one first-hand experience of you with yourself. This is very important. I always bring that in. Like, I take in a lot of second, third-hand experiences and information through books and data and different forms, and they can be very useful. But ultimately, if I don't have my own first-hand experiences with that data, I think it's quite useless. The more data I consume that I don't apply, the more I think I know without really knowing. So everything that I consume, I also need to apply, and then I have a first-hand experience that I can modulate and learn from, and that is the real experience that counts. Anything else is second, third-hand information and data flow, and the first-hand experience is the highest experience that I can see that is worthwhile. So instead of relying on other people's opinions, if you find your own way to that same opinion, it's a whole different thing. And so in this experience, you follow the data, you go to the place, you start observing, you spend time with yourself, and you go into the inner world and you explore what the observer is to you. I don't even have to tell you anything much because I already know where you're going to go. I've already done this with hundreds and thousands of people, not 100,000s, but hundreds and thousands of people. And we all come to the same conclusions about the I. We're all having a similar experience, just with different wordings, trying to phrase something that for us is a direct experience of this everlasting, always present, ever-present, observing experience of energy or consciousness. That is what everyone is speaking about when they talk about consciousness and awareness, because you can go and observe it. You can go and test it. You can go and see what it is and what it is not. And so what it means ultimately, your sense of self should not be tied to anything else external. It's a bonus. Everything external is a bonus to your experience, to who you are. At the core of who you are, there is an observer that is observing your thoughts, observing your feelings, observing your sensations in the body, and observing life itself. But that piece itself is untouchable, indestructible, and ever-present, all and everlasting. And we're all sharing this, if whatever you want to call it, the God spark. So from that place, if you know who you really are, that's always what they're asking. They're like saying, who are you really? Who are you? No one can tell you who you are. You need to live it. You need to explore it. And that's where authenticity comes in. That's where you need to be willing to trust in your path. Because if you say, I can't do it, you're right. And if you say you can do it, you're right. So you're the one who decides the outcome of your life. This is the foundation of any form of taking responsibility and mature leadership. Without it, you don't have much because you're still behaving like a kid. You're saying it's outside of my power. It's outside of my reach. I cannot do anything about this. And this passivity, it's detrimentally harming you. And it's detrimentally harming everyone in your life too. Because imagine you take action on the things that you have to, and you take responsibility, and you say it's in my power, and you start working from wherever you're at, and in the beginning, everyone looks stupid doing something. And you move through the layers of mastery, and you come to a place where you can facilitate, guide, lead in a way that brings prosperity to yourself and everyone around you. Isn't that the gift of service that every man can give to the world? And think about the effect that it will have on your whole environment. Think about the effect that just a smile can have on your environment, and just being a light, being someone who is actually happy, living a great purpose. I know and I see it around me all the time. How when the man steps into his power, takes 100% responsibility, how his family and his friends start thriving, become more prosperous. And it is really all in the attitude and how we hold ourselves and what we bring to life. And that is founded in the way who you perceive yourself to be. If you tie your self-worth to external elements, you're giving away your power. If you tie your self-worth to the knowing that you're the infinite awareness of consciousness, having an experience as a human being in this form right now, everything else is a bonus. And I think there comes always this where belief comes in. The rest is up to you to decide, how do you want to interpret this? Do you make it into nihilism, nothing matters? Or do you turn it into everything matters, believing in something higher than yourself? I've seen what nihilism does to the world. I've seen it in other people. I know what it did inside of me. And I wasn't a better human being because I thought that nothing matters. It was the opposite way around when I believed that there's a higher guidance, a higher intelligence. I mean, I just need to look at my body and see how it's functioning day in, day out. And yes, I can explain it away with some fancy words, or I can just look at it as a miracle of intelligence, of life that is running this whole show. And I'm literally an observer who has choices to make. And my choices will bring me to a certain timeline. I'm surfing timelines. I'm like a silver surfer. All of you are. You're so good at surfing timelines, you don't even know that you're doing it anymore. Every time you make a choice, the choice is yes, no, or maybe. Maybe is very often inaction. All three take you to a different outcome. And your intuition should be guiding this surfing. Your intuition is, and there was a study that I just read, it's very interesting. They're saying eventually your intuition is cognition, so precognition. It is data from the future arriving in this moment, because time is not linear. And it's very interesting to actually play around with that thought. So to not go totally out there, for everyone, just very grounded, do a connect to self, a deep meditation where you follow your senses back to the observer. Then observe the observer. Start to get to know that peace and never changing. It is the never changing. It's always exactly as it was. The moment you were born, before you were born, every time you're unconscious, it's still there, observing and watching. And it knows you better than you know yourself. Isn't that pretty cool? I would say if God would be omnipresent, knowing all, it would be consciousness itself implanted into every being, from big to small, from micro to macro. It would know everything and everyone, and it still would be unfazed by any experience ever happening outside, because ultimately it's just observing. It's like us watching television. It affects us, but it doesn't have an impact on anything else than the experience itself. So I hope that you can anchor yourself through this direction into something deeper. And you're the one who decides. You're the one who makes up your own beliefs. I just welcome you to believe in something higher than yourself. I welcome you to do that based on observation, not just fantasy, not just someone telling you about some book or something else. Just go and experience what is in the core of your being. And then from that place, build a relationship with that inner core, the deepest core. You're going to go deeper and deeper, and you're going to experience more and more presence. And when you have more and more presence and you're more aware of what's happening and who you are, you cannot get hijacked too easily. And if you do, you're going to come back to yourself as soon as possible. Because why stay in a suboptimal state that is not useful based on something external that will change for sure? And who has the power to change that? So go ahead, claim your power, brothers. Sending you a lot of love. And we're off now to the weekend with the S3s, the leaders who have gone with us through the whole training so far. It's going to be amazing. Very excited for it. We're going to have so much fun. And I wish you the best of times. And I'll see you in the next episode. Have a good one. Step into the forge, brothers.